Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Horror Trans. My name is Stephanie Bree. I'm a transgender woman, and I talk about all things horror. And today I'm doing horror icon Stephen King. Now, like I said, this is a relatively new series. I've only done 2 entries in it so far. Each one has been a little bit different. And this one's going to be even more different because Stephen King is a different kind of person, a different type of creator than Wes Craven or Sean S. Cunningham were. So, unlike Wes Craven, who is a prolific filmmaker that had a major impact on the slasher genre of horror, and Sean S. Cunningham, who was more or less an influential producer and not much more than that, Stephen King is a horror novelist, an author. And he's written too many goddamn books for me to go through them all. And he's had too many of them turned into movies and TV shows and miniseries and every goddamn thing else. So, I'm not going to be able to go through the complete works of Stephen King because that would be ridiculous. There's no fucking way. And I'm not going to be able to get into his books too much because we are talking about, this is a movie channel by and large, but it's all things horror if you pay attention to my tagline. And that includes books, and he's one of the few horror authors I do plan on talking about. So, looking at his Wikipedia, he's done there are too many movies and TV shows based on his works for me to go through them all. There's just no way. We'll be here for 3 hours. So, let's talk. I've already done a video on my other channel, Why Stephen King Movies Suck, which is sort of unfair because I actually enjoy a lot of his movies and TV shows, miniseries. I actually do. I really do. But I also don't enjoy a lot of his movies, TV shows, and miniseries. So, like I said, he's hit or miss. And he's literally hit or miss. He's so random. So fucking random. You never can tell if it's going to be a good movie or not. But it's always worth a watch. Every movie he's ever done is worth a watch. And his books are damn good. So let's talk about Stephen King, the author, and then we'll talk about Stephen King's films or adaptations of his novels and other works. So Stephen King is mostly a writer, an author. And he's done a lot of novels, and he's done some novellas and other things of that sort. Short stories and everything else. So he's done a lot. And a lot of his works have been adapted to film and television, like I've already said. So he's regarded for his novels, for his writing, his fiction writing, as the master of horror. Of which I will agree, he absolutely is. Even movies that I do not like, I have enjoyed the books. So, while there are a host of film and television adaptations based on his works I do not enjoy, I will say I have yet to read a Stephen King story in written form that I didn't like. Even if I didn't like the movie or the TV series or the other adaptation of it. His books are damn good. So, when you're talking about Stephen King, you have to separate Stephen King, the author, from Stephen King, film and television works. Because he's not really in control of the adaptations of his works, by and large. film studios just buy the rights to his works and go from there. And sometimes he's involved in them, sometimes he's not. Sometimes he makes a cameo in them, and sometimes he doesn't. So, I'm going to give you the bullet points on the books. I'm just going to list my favorite Stephen King books, and I'm going to talk about them briefly. My favorite Stephen King books are Pet Sematary, is my all-time favorite. It is one of my favorites. Misery is a really good one. I really enjoyed Misery. And those are the main ones. I read Pet Sematary when I was in 3rd grade. And it traumatized me when I was in 3rd grade. I was a full-grown adult when I read it, and I read Misery when I was in 5th grade. So not quite old enough to understand everything that was going on in Misery, but old enough to find it frightening. So, favorite Stephen King movies. I don't want to get into it right here. And the reason why I don't want to do that is because I don't want to spoil the videos, the reviews that I'm going to do on these movies as time goes on. He's had enough film and TV adaptations of his works that I could literally do a Stephen King work every week and not run out of Stephen King works for a very long time. Now, he has absolutely had an impact on horror. This is not even debatable. One, as I've already said a dozen times, so many of his works have been adapted to film and television. So he's had a major impact on the volume of horror movies that exist. And even though he has a lot of stinkers, there actually are a lot of really good movies based on Stephen King works. There's some that are iconic and beloved by the horror community that I don't personally enjoy, but they still had a big impact on the horror community and the horror genre, so you have to give them credit for that. And he's influenced a lot of horror writers and filmmakers. I would say he's probably one of the greatest horror writers of all time and one of the most prolific horror writers of all time, if not the actual literal greatest. And the reason why I say that is because I haven't read a lot of horror books by other authors. And the reason for that is Stephen King is the fucking master. So if you're looking for horror and you do read books, you pretty much read Stephen King. If you read a lot of books and somehow manage to read his entire body of works and you're looking for more, yeah, you might explore other horror authors. Or if by some weird chance his works don't do anything for you, then you might look elsewhere. Which I don't even know how to fathom how you couldn't like Stephen King as a horror fan. I don't even know what else to say. He is literally one of the greatest horror authors of all time, if not the greatest. Now, my all-time favorite Stephen King book, as I've just said not too long ago, is Pet Sematary. And even though I haven't reviewed it yet on this channel, either of them, the original or the remake, I will say I am a fan of Pet Sematary, and I've seen both films. I've seen most of it. Not all of, but most of his films. And he's got quite a few I don't like. So, I'll put that out there. I mean, if I keep going, I'm just going to keep repeating myself and saying the same things over and over again. There really isn't much to it. I'm not going to talk about the themes of his books or anything like that, because that's beyond my willingness to get into it for these videos. I want to keep them kind of light and mostly somewhat informative, but mostly entertaining and opinion based. You know? So, yeah, I definitely consider Stephen King one of the most important figures in the horror genre. Absolutely. He is a tremendous treasure to the horror community.